If you're new to the podcast community and you want to start a new podcast and you're looking for a platform that is user friendly, that has everything you need at your fingertips, that won't set any limits, that you can earn money, then I would recommend Anchor. Now, Anchor can be used basically anywhere. You could be in your car, you can be laying on the sofa in bed where you can edit, record, and upload. You can throw in soundtracks. Everything is there for you. Now, I use it because, it's user friendly and it is free, and I find it really easy to navigate without it being very confusing. Now, most platforms, before you can even try it out, you need to sign up and pick a plan. I like Anchor because I don't have to go through any of that. So I recommend it. Now, if you really want to get into it, I recommend you going to your website, anchor.fm, and, signing up. Or you can download anchor.fm from the Google Store, iTunes, and give it a try. So don't forget to go to anchor.fm, sign up, and I'll see you all in the podcast community. Hey folks, so today you're going to get a double hitter. I'm doing 2 stories regarding the Aztecs. This one is it's about the lost city of Aztlan, the legendary home of the Aztecs. Now, in paintings, this place is beautiful. It's like pictures of Mexico you've never seen before. Now, Aztlan is the ancient homeland of the great Aztec civilization, or it could be some mythical land described in many legends. Now, the Aztec people of Mexico created one of the most important empires in the ancient Americas. Now, we all know that their empire was located in what is today's Mexico City. Now, we really don't know much about the start of the culture, but many consider the missing land of Aztlan to be the ancient homeland where the Aztec people began to form their civilization prior to the migration to the Valley of Mexico. So in other words, where Mexico City used to be home to the Aztec civilization. Now, some believe that it is a mythical land, similar to Camelot, Atlantis, places like that, which live on through, your legends and your stories, but there's really no physical evidence. Now, how many of us, actually believe in Atlantis? Well, thanks to Aquaman, we believe in Atlantis. And thanks to the Knights of the Round Table, we believe in Camelot. Or thanks to Merlin, we believe in Camelot. Now, at the same time, others believe it is true physical location that will someday be identified. Now, searches of the land of Aztlan have spanned from western Mexico all the way to the deserts of Utah in the hopes of finding this particular island. Now, again, many people find this fruitless and, not almost like non-existent, because then some people say it's a waste of time. Now, I'm going to try to pronounce these words, but there is no hope because these words, like, yeah, no. The 7 tribes of Chichomostok. Chichomostok. Like I said, somebody who speaks Spanish who knows these tribes will clarify for me. Okay, now the formation of the Aztlan comes from the legend. According to the Nahuatl legend, that word, the way it's spelled, kind of reminds me of the Navajo writing, so bear with me. There were 7 tribes that once lived in, I'm just going to call Chichomico. No, it's Chikomostok or Chikomostok. I don't know. The place of the 7 caves. Now, these tribes represented the 7 Nahu groups: the Acohul, Chakla, Mexca, Tepecnica, La Juca, Teclexclan, and the Chichmilica. Okay, I tried. Some of these words are like, oh my god, I give up. Like, I can't pronounce these words. The 7 groups began similar linguistic groups, left their respective caves, and settled as one group near the main, let's go the main capital. Now, according to some accounts, the 7 groups arrived at the capital was preceded by the arrival of a group called the Chichimecas. Chichimecas or Chichimecas. That was an easy word to pronounce. Who were also considered to be less civilized than the 7 groups. The Mexca were the last groups to travel to the capital and may have been slowed down due to lengthy drought between 1100 and 1300 AD. Now, they have a picture here of the different migrations from the 7 groups, and it's quite an interesting drawing. Now, was the capital of paradise or land of tyranny? The word Aztlan means the land of the north, the land from whence we, the Aztecs, came. It is said that eventually the people who inhabited Aztlan became known as the Aztecs, who then migrated from Aztlan to the Valley of Mexico. In some tales, Aztlan is viewed as the land of paradise for all inhabitants. Don't get me wrong, I've seen some drawings of what it was thought to look like. It's very beautiful, but there are some drawings of what it, from people in that time, and it's not as beautiful. The codex, in the codex, Aztlan was place where the Aztecs were subject to the Azteca Chicomostoca, the to the elite of the tyrannosaurs, tyrannical elite. Now, to escape from there, the Aztecs fled to Aztlan, led by their priest. Now, according to, oh Lord have mercy, these words, their god Huitzlopochtli or Li told them that they could not use the name Azteca, and they were known as Mexicans. Mexica. The Aztec migration from Aztlan to Tenochtitlan is a very important piece of Aztec history. It began in May 24th, 1064, which was the first Aztec solar year. Now, how do they calculate that? I don't know. I would love to know how they calculated that. Now, Aztlan was an island on a lake. Okay, there's been never any physically identified, described as an island, rather than an island in the sea. If that makes any sense. Now, scholars have made many attempts to locate the capital in hopes of finding the place where the Aztecs, later known as the Mexica, originated. Now here, this is where you get the argument. Some argue that the search for Atlantis and the search for Aztlan are one and the same. And then these are simply two different names for the same land. Okay, that's one thought. Then on the flip side, many scholars say that searching for Aztlan is believed to be a separate land from this lost city of Atlantis. Now, one big mystery surrounding the capital, exactly how far north the area would have been located. Now, with searches extending all the way up to Utah, it's possible that the Aztecs didn't originate in Mexico at all, but their culture was formed in an area that is now the United States prior to their migration to the area where is Valley of New Mexico. Okay, so stop and think about it. There's no evidence of where the Aztecs began. Some people say they began in Mexico, but the flip side, many say they were formed in what is now the U.S., migrated down to the Valley of Mexico. And that's what they set their homeland. So you gotta wonder. Although many have searched in hopes of finding the capital, archaeologists do not believe that his discoveries yield much in terms of ruins and artifacts. Now, finding Aztlan will offer a glimpse into the history of the Aztecs and where they originated, although they also agree where the Aztecs originated wasn't important, as their migration to the valley and the events that occurred after. There are three problems that arise when trying to determine where the Aztecs were located. The first one, the stretching. It is likely the Aztec civilization did not migrate directly from Aztlan to the Valley of Mexico, as this would have been a very long direct journey. Instead, it was more like a zigzag as they traveled, making stops that would have lasted for various durations. It may be difficult to differentiate between a temporary destination and the duration of an entire journey. The second problem is known as layering, which recognizes that there is likely to have been more than one migration from the north to the south, and it's difficult to determine exactly which migration could be associated with Aztlan. And the third problem, folding. This arises when the migration went from migration back and forth from north to south and south to north again. So these three problems intensify the difficulty in establishing where Aztlan was a real location where the Aztecs originated, or a legendary place symbolic of the Aztecs. So, perhaps, maybe it once was an island and it sunk to the bottom of the lake, and it either was somehow destroyed or altered in shape. Perhaps maybe it's not a land at all in the physical sense, but it was a creation of some legendary tales explaining where the Aztecs originated from. But for right now, the legendary place where the Aztecs formed a powerful civilization began migrating to what now is known as Mexico City. Now, this doesn't fall under my typical episodes, but I came across these articles and I thought, oh, this is really cool. I like it. And if you're Latin American, if you're Mexican American, if you're Mexican, then you grew up with the Aztecs. You saw all the Aztec movies. I mean, the comedies with the Aztecs. You know the Aztec sacrifices they did to the sun god, the temples, places where they would do all this stuff. So all this stuff is, very adamant in Mexican culture. It's very prominent. It is part of our heritage. I mean, you see the Aztec warrior carrying, that one girl. That's typical. I mean, every panaderia calendar you get from every Mexican bakery has that picture. Or the Aztec warrior standing right outside the capital, the city, with the mountains in the background. That's another typical picture you see on anything with your, Mexican calendars. Those are the typical things you would see. But here's the thing. Was this island for real? Was it something that people can say, yes, this was a real island, and the Aztecs were formed here, they developed their culture here, and they developed a civilization here. They were full of tyranny. They were very, thumb on the people, and or was it more of a legend that a lot of Mexicans were told just to give the people that great warrior stance? So, like I said, it varies, totally varies on your train of thought. Does it exist or does it exist? Can you compare it to Atlantis? Or do you compare it to Camelot? Is it one or the same? Could it be an island like Hawaii? Or could it be an island that existed, but with time sunk and now is laying at the bottom of some lake? So you got to figure out which school of thought do you belong to. Do you belong to the school of thought that says, yeah, it existed, and with Mother Nature and time, it sank and it was destroyed? Or do you belong to the school of thought that says it's just like every other legend, it's imaginary and it doesn't exist? I will leave that up to you. With that said, this is the end of episode 1 of the Aztecs. Our next episode doesn't pertain to the umbrella, but it falls under the umbrella of. So with that being said, thank you for listening to another episode. Don't forget to like, rate, and share, and subscribe. I appreciate all your help and your donations. They truly helped a lot. Like I said, I had an investor who invested in me, so I got myself a new setup. If you would like to invest and you believe in my content and you believe in my podcast, by all means, reach out. If you want to donate for merch or whatever, and you want to be helpful that way, reach out. Social media, all that stuff. Okay, folks, I'm going to wait for the doctor because he's going to be joining in on the second episode on the Aztecs. We'll see you then.